Golf Smarter, number 697, is brought to you by Autoslash.com, who can help you find the lowest rate possible for your next car rental. Hit longer golf shots consistently by tweaking your wrist positions during your swing with Zach Allen.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Greene.
Welcome to the Golf Smarter podcast, Zach.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm well. I'm glad to have you on the show because you came to me as a listener request. Somebody wrote to me and said, you got to check out what Zach Allen's doing. And then 3 days later, I'm sitting with some guys on the 19th hole, and they said, have you seen Zach Allen yet? It's like, as a matter of fact, I just did. So you're gaining traction out there. Congratulations.
Oh, I appreciate it. I'm glad that people are talking about me for the right reasons.
Yes, I would understand that. But there's also the fact that I want to tell you how upset I am with you.
Okay.
The first video I watched of yours was about my left wrist. And you were saying, I have a secret that's going to give you 25 more yards. It's going to give you more distance. And of course, you got everyone's attention when you tell them you're going to get more distance. And I watched the video, and I've always had an issue with my left wrist being cocked. Not only did I have it in golf, I had that as an issue when I was a kid taking piano lessons, and my piano teacher kept saying, straighten your wrist, straighten your wrist. And then when I went in high school and I was taking typing, we had to do that in high school, and I had the same thing. My wrists were resting and they were completely bent. So when I got to golf, all of a sudden my backswing, my left wrist is at a 90-degree angle, right? And you said, if you just hold that wrist straight, and I learned that there's a different kind of bend in the wrist, instead of back and forth, up and down type of bend, all of a sudden, I'm hitting the ball farther. And the reason I was upset with you is because I was overshooting greens all day long.
Wow, that's great. That's definitely a good problem to have.
Exactly.
Once you figure out how far the ball is going to go.
That's the next step, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about wrist placement and where people are making mistakes and how they can be corrected on a simple correction that can give them more distance.
Yeah. No, I know that exact video that you're talking about.
Good. I didn't make it up.
I did it a couple years ago. But the left wrist is really important because, one thing that you want to remember is when you get down to impact, one of the laws of the golf swing is we need to pretty much return to impact with a flat left wrist, right? Imagine if you were going to punch somebody, right? Just take your arm out right in front of you. Imagine you throw a punch. And when you throw that punch, the angle between your forearm and your knuckles of your lead hand, right? So, I'm a right-handed golfer, so my left hand, that would need to be flat, right? If it was bent and I punched somebody, that out of line condition, I could maybe hurt my wrist. So at some point in the golf swing, we need to get to a place to where that wrist is going to be flat. If you take a look at like Matthew Wolff, the young kid that just won this last weekend, he's a little different. He has a very, the biomechanical term for it is a extended left wrist. Some people used to call it cupped. It's just like what you said. There's a large angle between your forearm and the back of your left hand. So he goes back like you used to, probably, right? He has it very cupped and he gets way across the line. But as he transitions, right, he's got this beautiful transition where that club lays down, and the weight of that club laying down behind him also serves to flatten that wrist out to where he actually gets it to where it's flat to slightly bowed, or the biomechanic term would be a flexed lead wrist. So you got to get there at some point. I find it very useful for a lot of people just to do it in the backswing, a little earlier rather than trying to, make sure it happens on the way down as everything's starting to move faster and quicker.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm listening intently. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really important thing, because what happens if you hit shots, and it's not that we don't hit shots, your wrist should be cupped and extended when you hit bunker shots, when you hit flop shots, when you hit shots out of high rough, because it's going to add loft and it's going to add height and it's going to help deaden the shot. But when we're taking a full swing and we want power, right, and we want compression and we want the ball to penetrate a little bit more and go farther, that's exactly what we don't want to do. So not that it's a bad thing to do. You just want to know when to do it, right? And obviously, you don't hit very many flop shots and bunker shots. We hit a lot more full shots. You want to be able to kind of have those hands educated to where they understand what shot and what wrist conditions are appropriate for that shot.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And
it is. If you take somebody like a Bryson DeChambeau, I'm watching the highlights here. I got the Golf Channel running as I'm talking to you, but he sets his left wrist flat at address, and he never changes it throughout the entire swing. He made an eagle on the last hole here, this last tournament, to beat Matthew Wolff by 1. And then you've got Matthew Wolff, who takes it up there and is in the wrong position. His club is across the line, which, really cups the wrist even more. But as they get down to about halfway down, they're both in the same position. And then at impact, they're both in the same position. And then through, they're also in the same position,
But those are guys on the tour. We're not.
Mm-hmm. Nope. Yeah, this is very true. So what do you think?
Yeah. So how is it that we get, without a teacher watching us nonstop, how do we keep ourselves in line with that? How do we continue to do that? How do we gain the awareness of doing that through our swing? Or is that $1 million question there?
No, it's not. It's not. It is a little tougher than just talking about it. Obviously, it always sounds easy when you just first talk about something. But I have a device that I use with a lot of my students in person. It's called the hanger, right? The golf hanger. It's if you can imagine it, it actually started because people used to train like that. They used to take a plastic coat hanger and put it on top of the grip and actually grip the hanger. So you imagine you had, the hook part of the hanger running up through the middle of your forearms. And the cool thing about that, as you go to cup or bow your lead wrist, you would feel the hanger hitting your left forearm, or you'd feel it hitting your right forearm. So it's a very, good tool to kind of get your wrist educated into what they're doing or what they're not supposed to be doing. So sometimes I'll use the hanger when I'm working with students in person. But you're right, though. It does have a lot to do with having some lag, having the club be shallow, having your hands in front of the ball. They all kind of work together, and they work together when you're doing it right, and they work together when you're doing it wrong, as in more things are going to go wrong if you don't have it.
That's one I struggle with a lot. I've always had issues with my wrists when I'm playing. And it just, over time, I'm continuing to try to find new ways, but try to gain the awareness that will keep me there. And I always find that to be, hey, it worked great this week. And 2 weeks later, I went, I forgot about that part of my wrist.
Yeah, no, and it's hard too, because you want to hinge your wrist in the backswing. That gives us a lot of extra power from the hinging and unhinging of our wrist. But a lot of bad things can happen when people start to hinge their wrist. Mm-hmm. Other things can go wrong because your wrist joints can move in a lot of different directions. So we want to get wrist hinge, but we want to do it in a way to where it does not open the club face excessively, which is what I see the most. Most of your golfers out there usually are fighting with an open club face. They're turning their 8-iron into a 9-iron, or maybe even a worse, a pitching wedge, and their longer clubs are usually fading or slicing off to the right.
Mm-hmm. Sounds painfully familiar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what about the right wrist for a right-handed golfer? The wrist that's the hand that's behind the lead. Is that
so? Yeah. So the right wrist, right? If you kind of imagine them both working, the way they're supposed to, at impact, you want to have a bent right wrist, and you want to have a flat left wrist for a right-handed golfer. So yeah, that is a great point too, because when one of the hands is not cooperating or working cohesively, you need to kind of figure out which one is giving me more of the issue. And it could be the right hand, it could be the left hand, it could be a little bit of both of them getting in trouble. But when you get the club up and behind you at the top of your swing, you obviously can't see that, unless you've got it on video. So it's something that, you really want to build and cultivate. I call it having educated hands, or this club head awareness, right? We have this sense of the weight of the club head, and from that weight, we sense the orientation. Is it closed? Is it open? How much loft is on the face? Things of that nature that good players can, intrinsically feel.
And I know, I've been told, I understand about rolling your hands over. And if you ever want to hit a draw, you got to roll your hands over at contact, right? But your right wrist should be bent and your left wrist straight at impact, correct? So you don't, you're not getting ahead of it, and avoid the lag, but then you got to roll your wrist over.
Well, not your wrist, it's more in your forearms. So we want to get our forearms, it's called supination, right? If you just put your hand and arm out in front of you and you just rotate your hand to the left, that would be supination in the downswing of our left arm. But you want to be careful, because when you just think about the wrist closing the club face or rolling, flipping, whatever you want to call it, it's not going to work every time. What good players are doing, their wrists are relatively stable going through, but their forearms are what are supinating. So the left wrist is staying flat, the right wrist is staying bent. For the most part, I have this really cool swing trainer that I use with a lot of my students. It's called Hack Motion. And if you look it up, it's a 3D wrist trainer that you put on your wrist. It looks like a watch, but it syncs up to my iPad, and I can see to the degree the amount of flexion, extension, radial deviation, ulnar deviation, supination, pronation that my students are doing as they hit shots. So it's very helpful. So when I'm saying some of these things, like your left wrist is going to stay flat, you're right, they're changing slightly, but when you're doing it with an amateur golfer that's not doing it correctly, they're changing a great deal, and we don't want the wrist to be doing that much as we're hitting the ball.
And when you talk about rolling over your forearms, one of the other issues that I seem to have noticed in my swing, and I've had teachers show me, is on my takeaway, I'll start with my left arm, so I'm kind of rolling over with my left arm as opposed to just going straight back with both arms together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Yeah. We definitely do not want a lot of that just arm rotation in the takeaway, because the club face is going to probably go inside. It's probably going to roll open more. Mm-hmm. And, that's a really common issue is, the first movement, the club head rolls in, and from there, the club is pretty low, so you've got to start lifting it. Once you start lifting, you're going to definitely go into that cupped position at the top, that cupped left wrist position.
Yep. Wow. Okay, so you're saying this is pretty common.
It's really common. Yeah, that's probably one of the most common takeaway and backswing errors. You roll it in and you lift it up, and then from there it's probably going to come over the top, or it's not going to be good, though, I'll tell you that much.
But again, it's something that I think that I've had teachers for years tell me, yeah, look at the video here. See how your arm, when we're looking down the line here, you can see your left arm is coming out over the top of that. And I'm like, I don't see it. It's like, it took me years to realize what the heck they were talking about. And then once I finally did, it was like, oh, how did I miss that?
Yeah. And, I mean, honestly, I mean, I've been teaching now for, a little over 20 years, but I didn't really understand it the first 4 or 5 years that I was teaching. I just thought it was almost an aesthetic thing of like, okay, you want to have the right looking takeaway. You want to have the club, when you get back to, say your right pocket, you want the club lined up with the target line and the face, relatively up and down. But now that I've been teaching and teaching and, teaching a lot, thousands and thousands of lessons, it goes way beyond that. It really has an influence on how you're going to transition and how you're going to come down, how you're going to hit short game shots. You imagine people that take it inside, when you got to hit a chip shot, when you got to hit a bunker shot, everything's going to get problematic. So it's really something that you want to spend a little time, whether it be in a mirror at home, but just learning how to control your takeaway. I mean, if you think about it, if you can't control how your club swings away from the ball, how are you ever going to control how it swings into the ball when it's moving, a lot faster?
Yeah. I'm so happy that you said that you didn't notice it for a number of years. You didn't recognize it either. And that's one of the things that's blown me away. I've been playing golf for 20 years. I started later in life. And that the nuances of the golf swing that it takes years to understand, to recognize, because you hear people talk about it all the time, you understand it, you grasp it, but you don't see it in yourself. And then once you finally do recognize it, it's like, that's what oh my gosh, I had no idea what you were talking about. Now I get it. And I feel dumb that I didn't get it the first time.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very true. It does. It takes some time and some experience and all those things that you're talking about. And, my coach used to tell me, he would say that he's planting a seed, when we'd be talking about something. He's like, you don't know what I'm talking about right now, but you will one day. And then at some point, 6 months, a year, sometimes 2 years later, like, oh, I know what he's talking about now. It finally had occurred to me, that seed that he had planted a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for confirming that because I thought it was me and just like, okay, I'm learning disabled or something. All right, listen, let's take a short time out. We'll be right back. Zach, who are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself. And well, we know that you've been teaching for 20 years, but give me a little bit more. Like, get your background.
Well, yeah, I mean, I played golf as a junior. I was a state champion in high school, played on a golf team at USC, got a scholarship there.
Fight on.
Thank you very much. And then at some point in college, I just totally lost my game. I mean, I was so deep into trying to figure out the golf swing, trying to make perfect golf swings, videotaping my swing, reading everything, where I really started playing poorly about my, junior, senior year in college. And I didn't know it at the time, but I think I was actually learning more about how to teach golf. But in the end of it, I was actually destroying my own game. So fast forward a few years later, I was able to kind of right the ship and figure out, the right things to do for myself and, what needed to be done to get my personal game back. But at that point, I kind of felt like, I think I would be a very good teacher. So I started teaching, a couple years after college, found out that I was, pretty good at it. I was able to help people. I had the experience of, being a very good player, but I also had the experience of totally losing my game, which I think is an important asset too. So I could understand, because most of the times when I'm working with people, they're not going to be, elite golfers. They're people that are shanking the ball, people that are missing the ball, people that can't get the ball airborne. So you have to be able to, understand that process. And, I've been teaching ever since then, teaching, doing videos, doing some online content, all those types of things.
And you have a very robust YouTube channel with a lot of really good videos on them. I mean, that's what made me want to talk to you is seeing some of your videos.
Yeah. So I started YouTube pretty early, probably 10, 11 years ago. There wasn't a lot of golf content on YouTube. I definitely wasn't the first, but, I was pretty early on. And YouTube was just great. I felt pretty awkward shooting my first 10, 20 videos, just me sitting out on a golf course with a camera, not knowing what I was doing. And if you look at any of those videos, you'll probably be able to tell. But at some point, the production value got a little better. I got a little better. I found out that I really liked doing it. I came across good on video as far as, being able to explain maybe a complex subject fairly well on video to where people could understand it more. So people just engaged. People got in there, started watching my videos. I got tons of good feedback on just how much it was helping their game. And to me, it was great, rather than just being able to help one person that's standing in front of you, you have the ability to really move that out to the masses, through YouTube.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking about the videos that you've been doing, and I understand that you also have a video now that is for sale.
So we do, yeah. We have it's a paid video. It's called the Ball Striking Blueprint. That's people have really been loving. It's been out for almost a year now, and the sales have actually continued to climb and climb, which just blows me away, because normally if you release something at some point, it's going to start to trend and dip down, but it's almost gaining in popularity.
Wow.
So that's been really, really, really nice to see. I also have an email list that people subscribe to that's totally free. We've got almost 150,000 people on this email list, all golfers. They get free tips, videos, lessons from me every week. The paid one is called the Ball Striking Blueprint. And what it's pretty much mostly about is shallowing the golf club in the downswing. It's been a pretty hot topic for about the last, I'd say, year and a half, 2 years. And it was something I always knew about as a player. I saw good players doing it. I always struggled to do it when I was younger. But it wasn't until recently that I realized how important this one move was in the golf swing to compressing the ball, hitting it farther, using the ground better, just all these important variables. It helps you to square the club face up. It helps you to speed the club face up. This kind of this move that happens in transition, where the club lays down flatter than the original plane that it went on in the backswing. So it's about 4 hours of instruction, and it really takes a look at exactly what a player needs to do, from the takeaway to how you're using the ground and the leg work to get this move to happen in your golf swing. And it's really just been it's done very well. So been very thankful for that.
Congratulations. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get it? What's it cost? Where is it?
So it's $57, and it's if you just go to the ballstrikingblueprint.com, you can go and take a look at it there. If you end up not wanting to buy it, no hard feelings, sign up for my free email list. Right there, you'll see a little email input you can put in there, and you'll start getting some of the free emails and some of my free content that I put out every week. But I would suggest definitely take a look. There's been a lot of research done by a guy named Sasho McKenzie, and it's really shown the importance of how every good player does this, and your amateur golfers, they just do not do this. This was one of the biggest defining factors, from your elite players to your amateur players. So I definitely would take a look, whether it's through me. There's other people that are talking about it out there also. But it would be something that could get your game going in the right direction.
Very cool. All right. Ballstrikingblueprint.com.
Yes, exactly.
And it's an online video? You're not mailing out DVDs?
Yeah, it's just a digital download.
Okay. Zach, I want to take a quick time out to remind the Golf Smarter listeners that this episode and Golf Smarter Mulligans are both supported by Autoslash.com. Now, you've heard me talk about them before, but now I want to rave about them. My trip to Boston is coming up, and my wife and I keep going back and forth on whether we want to rent a car for the entire week or just a day or two. But because of the savings we're getting by using Autoslash.com to rent the car, we're more interested in the lowest possible price for the car we want without making compromises. So it's become a no-brainer to take the car for the entire week. CEO Jonathan Weinberg loves these type of stories.
Our customers come back and tell us all the time how happy they are that we've saved the money. And the ones that make us feel the best, honestly, are customers that come and say, hey, honestly, I couldn't have made this trip at all had you guys not saved me so much on the rental. I was basically not going to go to visit my mother, sister, father, whatever it is, family member, because I just couldn't afford it. But you guys found me such a low rate that it made the trip affordable for us. That's something that really warms our hearts. So it's what makes it worthwhile, and it's what gets me out of bed every day.
AutoSlash, the free online rental car booking hack that tracks your upcoming reservations, then finds the lowest rates for your next car rental. So next time you're planning on renting a car for business or pleasure, check out autoslash.com. AUTOSLASH. That's autoslash.com. Another video that I saw of yours that I found very interesting, because I see it in a lot of people, a lot of my friends who play. You did a video on setting up to the ball. How close to the ball should you be? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that for a minute, about, where you're setting up. I guess everything always starts with position, grip, and alignment, right? You just start at the very beginning. But there's a lot of people who seem to be bent over way too far and sticking their arms way out, and the club head at address is kind of sticking up in the air. I don't think that's right, is it? They shouldn't be doing that.
No, obviously, if you look at, say if you put 10 of the best golfers in the world up there, they're not going to look exactly the same. They've got different heights,
good point,
different arm length, different leg lengths. But it is a good idea for, all the listeners at home just to get in a mirror with a 7-iron and just kind of take a look at, well, what does my posture really look like? Where are my balance points? You'll see certain things for people that stand too far. Usually you'll see the weight is out on the toes. People that stand too close, the weight's back on the heels. And like you said, once our posture, our setup, our distance from the ball is not right, it's just going to be a bad chain reaction of you trying to recover from that point on.
Mm-hmm. And it is a chain reaction. I mean, like when you start in a bad spot there, it's not going to get better. It's hard to correct that in the middle of your swing, right?
It totally is, and I almost could. I've been teaching for so long now. If I saw somebody just set up to the ball, I could probably tell you word for word what their swing is going to do before they even take a swing. It's almost that predictable just by how you start.
Oh my gosh, that sounds painful. What else do you see with not necessarily beginning golfers, but golfers who are playing? They've broken 100 and they would really love to break 90, but are struggling with it. What are the common things that you witness that you wish it would be like waving a magic wand and it would all go away? Something that I think has just really been I've been using a pressure mat a lot for about the last 3 years. And, it's a mat that goes on the ground and it's calculating a bunch of different stuff, but it's basically showing you how a golfer interacts with the ground. And, people have different issues all the time. Like, I don't have enough club head speed. I don't have a big enough backswing. I don't know how to shift my weight. I'm out of balance. All these different things. And it's amazing when you start using this pressure mat consistently, everything shows up on that mat in your ground interaction. So before I used a pressure mat, I would say if somebody did not have a big enough backswing turn, we would do things to figure out, okay, how much flexibility do you have? How much can you actually turn? Now let's go ahead and try to make a bigger turn, right, without hurting ourselves. But I can actually fix it now through how they interact with the ground, more so than just telling somebody, hey, you need to turn your shoulders more. You need to turn your hips more. Once they see what's going on, it's called your COP trace, your center of pressure trace. It's showing the pressure movement in your golf swing through these mats. It's helping so many other things that I had never really considered. So, to answer your question, I would say if you actually realize that you turn your body more through how you use your feet and the ground, you speed the club head up
first of all, through that connection of your feet to the ground, how you rotate, how you push off the ground, the timing, when you transfer your pressure, that's all in that ground, ground interaction. So I think that's really been amazing to see. And I think it's probably going to be some of the future in golf, really being able to get people to improve through understanding how the ground would help them.
But teachers need to make sure they keep working. We don't want to give all the secrets away and improve everybody, right? You guys know.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing. You would need a teacher to analyze the data.
Right.
And the mat cost about $2,000 itself. So I don't think anytime soon that's going to be getting that much cheaper to where, your average golfer would go out and purchase it. But if they could, and they could kind of have a pretty good grasp, I almost see it as like, back, 50, 60 years ago when they first started videotaping swings more, slowing it down and analyzing it, that was probably a huge revolution in golf instruction. I see this kind of, it's called pressure mapping as being almost the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Great. How do people find you? If they want to talk to you online, you give online lessons?
I do, yeah. So I have a website. It's called ZachAllenGolf.com. And I do online lessons. I have people that, send me their swings from different places, and it's actually amazingly helpful, to a lot of these players. I only charge like $40. You send me a swing and I'll, critique your swing. I do a voiceover analysis. It usually ends up being about 10 minutes long. Uh-huh. And I think it's worked out so well because people like to look at it over and over again. They can see their swing. I'm comparing it with the pro. I'm talking over, just some of my thoughts on it. And it's amazing how good the feedback is on that. But or you could go to my website or, ZachAllenGolf.com. And I also teach here in Southern California at Vista Valencia Golf Course. Okay,
very cool. And people should be aware, it's ZachAllen golf.com. It's not what you would necessarily assume, so I'm going to spell it out for you. ZachAllen golf.com. And it's his website, ZachAllenGolf.com. It's also his YouTube channel, Zach Allen Golf. And I'm sure my guess, based on that social media probably follow you there too, right? Zach Allen Golf?
Yeah, that's pretty, I have some other stuff, but probably the best places would be on YouTube or through my website. Those would probably be the best places to get me.
Awesome. Well, I really enjoyed speaking with you. I'm so glad that people turned me on to you and I was able to find your stuff. Thanks so much for your time and being on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed it.
I want to share an email that I received from a listener in Germany who you may have met on our YouTube channel because I shared a video of our round together when he visited Northern California. I'll put a link in the show notes. Bernd Dreilich wrote to me to announce that, all right, well, here's what he said. I'll break down the email so you don't have to do the whole thing, but you'll get the gist of it. He said, I have finally done it. I broke 80 and shot 78 last Saturday. As you know, it took me 3 years of intense training. After working on my iron game, contact, stronger grip, short game, chipping, and especially got rid of my slice with the driver earlier this year, things seemed to develop and everything fell into place. But especially, I think it's the mental part of the game. I think the main inspiration for the mental game for me to break 80 came from Jim Waldron in episode 689, The State of Mind of an Athlete. Be present, no fear of failure, because we are here to perform the best we can. Even when some bad shots happened, I wouldn't let myself down. I didn't get nervous thinking about that it was even possible to break 80. When I finally had my last 2-inch putt, I knew I had done it. I tapped it in, raised my arms, pumped my fists, yelled, and jumped with excitement. What an achievement, and you are part of it in my journey for the last 3 years. Well, Bernd, congratulations. Thanks so much for sharing your great news. I had nothing to do with it. I didn't swing your clubs or tweak them or practice for you. You did it on your own. I'm really excited for you. And this means that my invitation to you still stands. If you're coming to San Francisco and would like to play golf, just get in touch with me and we'll see what we can do to make it happen. I really enjoy playing with Golf Smarter listeners who come from all over the world. Australia, Germany, Israel, England, I've played with. Besides the fact traveling with a group of people, these are people who've just come to San Francisco and I've just had a great time playing with. So thank you very much. Now, this week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, we get our first introduction to the guru of puttingzone.com, Jeff Mangum. Jeff is brilliant, and he quit practicing law to commit his life to studying and sharing his knowledge on putting. Wow. And sometimes I have no idea what he's talking about. That's what I love about having him on the show. Well, this week's episode of Golf Smarter Mulligans is called Use Your Brain to Putt Your Best. Now, if you've yet to hear about our weekly sister podcast, Golf Smarter Mulligans, it's the best episodes of Golf Smarter that only focus on game improvement and come from the early episodes of the show, which are no longer available on any podcast platform. Get your free subscription for Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans wherever you get your favorite podcasts, including now on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and of course, Apple Podcasts. Golf Smarter Mulligans and Golf Smarter Today is supported by Autoslash.com and always twoguyswithgolfballs.com. Don't forget to register for our next giveaway because your chances of winning have increased dramatically. That's because we're going to select 5 winners to each receive this prize. If you want to see how cool Glovelast is and why you need one, go to our homepage at golfsmarter.com or youtube.com/golfsmartertv to see our introduction to Glovelast. Remember, we're giving away 5 of these, and they each have the Golf Smarter logo and a carabiner so you can hang it on your bag. And I promise you, Glovelast is going to keep your gloves from getting stale, crunchy, and useless. Winners will be announced on our next episode, so enter now because the deadline for entry is July 14, 2019. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, I invite you to please, or if you're telling me you're coming to play the Bay Area, please click on the Hey Fred button at golfsmarter.com.